What is going on, everyone? Welcome into Bayou Bengals football. So I wanted to start with this. So yesterday Sav'vion Jones and Mason Taylor were interviewed by the media. So I wanted to touch on a few things of what Mason Taylor said. So Mason Taylor, the first notable thing is he's back. He's fully recovered from his shoulder surgery. He had some rehab. They kind of took it slow, so he's fully healthy. That's really awesome news for Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor, if you're not really familiar, he is their star tight end. Really had a nice freshman season for LSU, so it's really awesome to see Mason Taylor continuing to make steps in the right direction, continue to be really a star player on offense for him. So yeah, Mason Taylor. Also, he had bulked up. He's bulked up to about 255. He's added some strength in the weight room, so I think that's really cool to see too. And he was just talking about. They asked him about the expectations this year, and he gave a kind of the typical answer. They're going to take it day by day, game by game. So I think that was probably the best way to answer that question. But I think he's excited. And he kind of said what I said about the tight ends. Each guy kind of has their own. Has some strengths to their game, but he likes the versatility of all the tight ends, meaning he likes that they can catch and block too. Talked about, really emphasized Mac Markway's ability to block, Pimpton's ability to have a high catch radius just because he's so tall. So yeah, I think that was really cool. Talked about some of the young freshmen. He said KP. I'm not sure if he's referring to Kyle Parker or Kai Preen, but he talked about Jalen Brown too. So he thinks the young freshman wide receivers bring a nice skill set and are going to be impactful right away. And he thinks the wide receivers are going to be rotating even more so this year with the depth they have. They're going to try to get in some more guys and try to take advantage of the depth and overall talent they have. But Chris Hilton, another guy that's name keeps getting thrown out there. I did see him getting some reps with the ones. I know that's always kind of like a fun thing to throw out there to start some buzz, saying a guy who's running with the ones. Who knows? It could they rotate a lot of guys in with the ones at different programs, but what it could mean that Chris Hilton really is taking another step in his development. This guy that when you go back watch some of his high school tape or some of the snaps he's played, he is explosive. Does have good long speed. A guy that knows how to get off the line of scrimmage in a hurry. A guy that can really manipulate DBs with this. Does have quick footwork. He's got good body control. He's got his hands are a little up and down as you saw in the spring game, but I don't. They are not really. I don't think it's not drops where it's not just like bad drops where his hands are just kind of hands are just a little too tough. It's drops where I think he just wants to get the ball and churn up field immediately. So Chris Hilton, a guy getting a lot of buzz right now by other people. It sounds like he might be taking a giant year two leap potentially, and a guy that's going to be really in the mix to be really impactful for this LSU wide receiving core and be kind of maybe he is that third. Maybe he does become that I guess maybe fourth guy, but that doesn't sound like I'm giving him high praise, but the fourth guy in this LSU wide receiving core could be very meaningful, considering the fact that you have Brian Thomas, Kyron Lacey, and Malik Neighbors. You have three strong wide receivers at the top. So yeah, who is Chris Hilton that fourth guy? Does he actually become that kind of maybe that strong wide receiver? Does he become that wide receiver three? So, yeah, it sounds like Chris Hilton may be that next guy. Is it Kyle Parker, Jalen Brown, one of the freshman wide receivers? So, yeah, Mason Taylor kind of touched on what I've been thinking, that they're gonna play more receivers this year, and one guy is really gonna get his shot, get his chance to really shine. But yeah, I like that Mason Taylor, he touched on his ultimate goal is to win a national title, and I think that's you could say a lot of players say that, but I think that he really emphasized that's his main thing, is to win a national title. And I think that's really cool. I think that, to me, at the end of the day, you should set your expectations high, whatever you're doing in life. And I think that Mason Taylor, it sounded like when he says that, he truly means that. Like that is his ultimate goal. Like he sounds like a guy who he is very humble. It sounds like a guy, he does appreciate kind of the day in, day out grind of getting better. And to me, it seems like, I'm sure he's a guy who enjoyed a lot of the accolades and the praise he was getting after the excellent freshman season. But to me, coming from a guy who dad had a lot of success in the NFL, his dad and Jason Taylor, to me, I'm sure his dad has kind of instilled in that you hanging a banner, winning a championship means a lot to this program, and it means a lot not only for your own legacy, but for it lasts forever. So winning a national title, big in the eyes of Mason Taylor. Yeah, and they also talked with Sav'vion Jones, and they asked him about, LSU had a little bit of a scuffle. Harold Perkins, Lacey, Kyron Lacey, Major Burns, Denver Harris, some of the players involved. And, it's Mason Taylor commented on this a little bit. It's not like a huge worry. It's they kind of downplayed it, and Brian Kelly just told them respect the brotherhood. To me, I think what the scuffle means is, I think that there's so much competition for spots, and that you're gonna have to be when you're on your A game and you're really getting after it. You are playing with a lot of adrenaline, a lot of intensity, and when all of those things are combined, it does lead to some scuffles. But I think I remember when I was in high school, we had a few scuffles, and it was a lot of times it was when practice was really intense and competitive and stuff like that. So I think, to me, you just don't want this to become a reoccurring thing. So I think, one or two of these in fall camp, I think it's going to happen. But if it becomes a reoccurring problem, I think that's when you kind of really question, is this team, how close is this team? Is there guys that are really, is there just some too many selfish players on this team? So I think that's something you got to kind of monitor as we go along. So not a huge issue, I would say, at this point in time. But yeah, I think Brian Kelly said it best: respect the brotherhood, understand that these guys are your brothers, and that compete, get better. I know that's the name of the game as of right now, trying to earn your spot, but save a lot of this. Save a lot of the within the game violence and intensity for when you play another opponent. That's kind of what Mason Taylor hit on. But yeah, Sav'vion Jones asked about Mason Smith coming back, and he said that he thinks Mason Smith coming back gives them a huge boost of confidence on the defensive line. I think that is an excellent way to put it. He has big expectations for himself, and I like that he stays humble in this interview as well. But he does say that he does have expectations that he's going to play at a high level. I like that he said the game is slowing down for him. I think that's a big sign. Sav'vion Jones, still a young guy, and you watch his high school tape. This guy, I think, has a high upside for LSU. You watch, he's really got some acceleration burst, really can get after it and chase down ball carriers, which I love. Does show the ability to he's got good side-to-side quickness to help him work through, get around blocks, so I love that. And agile, just, good agility, really good overall football player, and I think he's got a chance to really be a bright spot in this LSU defensive line. I think he's certainly going to be one of the starting defensive ends and have a really nice season. He was happy with the way that Omar Spates and Ovia Gofu have looked. Ogofu likely going to be the starter at the jack linebacker, and then Spates likely the starter at one of the inside backers. So it's cool that he commented on those guys, gave them high praise. And I love that he said the confidence the defensive line has with Mason Smith back. So, yeah, I mean, that's really cool. I think really good questions were asked, and I think really good insight from Sav'vion Jones, Mason Taylor. Those are guys I enjoy listening to being interviewed. I've heard Sav'vion Jones being interviewed before. I think he really gives good answers. I think he gives honest, true answers. And, so exciting stuff from Sav'vion Jones, Mason Taylor. Those were two LSU guys that were interviewed yesterday by the media. Chris Hilton Jr., I touched on getting buzz. So, just want to say a few more things. Yeah, Chris Hilton, I think that this is, to me, Chris Hilton, he may have the third of the non-incoming true freshman, maybe has the third highest upside, or maybe has the second, or third highest upside of the guys returning at wide receiver. Maybe even more so than Brian Thomas. Maybe possibly more so than Kyron Lacey, but I think Neighbors, Kyron Lacey have the highest upside, and then I think Chris Hilton may have the third highest upside for big playability. I think you saw in high school Hilton can make big plays. Now he's not great. He's not great with run after the catch. He's good run after the catch, but this is a guy who if you get him in the open space, it really does become a track meet. This guy can really excellent long speed, good acceleration burst. So I just want to reiterate, Chris Hilton's going to be exciting to see how he does. He's certainly a guy to watch, and hopefully the buzz is real right now. Some guys kind of ride that buzz and momentum that they get from camp, doing some nice things into the season, and some guys kind of fall off. So hopefully he continues to ride that momentum, and a lot of this buzz and praise from camp right now from Chris Hilton is warranted. Some of the injuries, J.K. Johnson had a leg injury and did not practice Monday. J.K. Johnson, transfer corner from Ohio State. And then Greg Brooks got hurt too. He was injured towards the starter practice and was not able to return. Jeremiah Hughes, true freshman corner, injured at the end of practice. And then Josh Williams got hurt, and did come back on the practice field, but was not in shoulder pads. So, so you kind of, to me, Greg Brooks, guy you don't want to lose, guy that's experienced, played a lot of football played a lot of SEC football, was their starter last year, projected to be their starter once again this year. Josh Williams, likely their starting running back. I know they got a rotation, but Williams, really talented player. They need him back. So those are several key guys that they do not want to miss extended period of time. J.K. Johnson, a guy is fighting his way for playing time, trying to earn playing time this year in a secondary that's a little uncertain. Sounds like it's going to be Zy Alexander at one corner, corner position certainly going to be interesting. But J.K. Johnson, a guy that come in, he's expecting to play. He comes from a high pedigree, was a 4-star recruit. So he's a guy that really wants to get back out there so he can compete and have a chance to win one of those starting corner roles. Denver. So I wanted to scout Denver Harris, talk about his play a little bit. Denver Harris. So when I watched Denver Harris's tape, kind of had to go back to high school. Began his career at Texas A&M and then is now transferred this year to LSU. So Harris coming out of high school, big-time 5-star recruit. It's a guy who he can read plays well. He's got good instincts as far as being able to recognize screen plays, recognize what pass play the offense is running, read the quarterback. I like he's got good ball skills, guy that can go jump and make interceptions. He does a good job staying deeper than wide receivers and coming up and then staying the deepest and then coming up making plays on the ball. So I like that ability in Denver Harris's game. He is a good solid wrap-up tackler, takes good angles, missing a little bit of that elite. Does not really have necessarily like exceptional elite burst and acceleration to go run up and close and make tackles. I think that's missing from his game. The change of direction is good. It's not great. I think that's kind of the reason. And then he's good overall in man coverage, but not like exceptional. I think that's a lot of, I saw in some of his highlight tape they were playing him in zone coverage. I think zone coverage probably is a better is a better fit for him, just the way he can, just with his ability to read plays. I think you want to just kind of have it sit with his back to the sideline, looking, being able to kind of scan the whole field. So I think he is a guy that's going to excel more in zone coverage, but certainly does have the ability to play man coverage as well. So I think that, with that being said, I think Denver Harris certainly is going to be in the mix to play some valuable snaps this year. Is he going to start? I think he is a long shot to really win one of those starting jobs this year. But yeah, I think Denver Harris does have a chance to play some meaningful snaps this season. I think he's a guy that does have a chance to be impactful as far as special teams is concerned, though. So yeah, I think that, Sav'vion Jones, Mason Taylor interviews. So we kind of touched on some of the injuries yesterday. I think that, injuries is something, some of the things that are bound and determined to happen. I think, Brian Kelly has touched on depth. Depth is so important. You do not want injuries. Brian Kelly, he understands this team, even though they have added a lot of pieces through the transfer portal and they have some talented incoming freshmen. Depth is something. Their depth is not yet quite superior enough to avoid a mass amount of injuries. So you hope LSU. So I hope you trust your training staff that they can help get these guys healthy back onto the practice field. Because Josh Williams, even though you can say, we have a veteran deep running back group, Josh Williams is a guy you do not want to miss an extended period of time because his veteran leadership, even though if he's injured, he can help players on the sideline. You want his veteran presence out on the practice field, leading the way in practice, leading drills. I think that's a big thing. Veteran guys do a good job of leading drills and kind of showing the young guys how to go through a drill, how to do a drill properly, how to do it with a competitive edge and an intensity. So I think that Josh Williams certainly a guy they want to get back out there because he will help a lot of the young guys and he will help lead the way of how practice is run. And he's a guy that has experience playing on the 2019 national title team when he was just a walk-on, and now is one of the guys that's returning in year 2 of the Brian Kelly, Mike Denbrock, the OC system. So Josh Williams, certainly a guy they want to get back out there. Greg Brooks, hopefully they get back out there. Greg Brooks is a guy who I would be worried a little bit if I was hurt because Andre Sam, Deuce Chestnut, some of these transfers are very Zay Alexander, more of a corner, but they have some guys that are hungry for some playing time. So if I'm Greg Brooks, I want to make sure I'm back as soon as possible so I can keep all the reps. And I do not want to see the coaching staff see Andre Sam out there getting more reps and showing more good things. To me, Greg Brooks is a guy that really has to get back. And to me, I don't think he's a guy that's going to lose just because of this injury. I don't think he's going to lose his job right away. But to me, say he's banged up earlier in the season and maybe is still playing but not at a high level. They might be, and then Sam's kind of the backup. Sam might be getting more and more snaps. You kind of saw that. Teams are not as afraid to do that this year. As a college football competitive program, like LSU and Brian Kelly, the coaching staff, I'm sure they respect what Greg Brooks has done for them. But also, we got guys that are hungry, and we got a guy like Andre Sam, a guy that flashes a lot of ability. Is this a guy that, if Brooks, if he's injured, not really playing well, this is a guy that, maybe we look to get Sam more meaningful snaps. Like we're still, even though we respect what Greg Brooks has done for you, we want to get the most competitive, best players on the field. And I know this is all hypothetical, but it just goes to show that goes back to the scuffle that I think there's a lot of competition for spots. I think what it boils down to, maybe not just the scuffle, but I think what a lot of the intensity is boiling down to is there's a lot of guys are still unproven. And even though Andre Sam, Deuce Chestnut, some of these guys have proven their way at other schools, when you transfer to a new school, what you did at the other school, they don't really care. And that's kind of been the case. That's even the case at most big-time programs who are competitive. If you come in, even if you come in as a high 4-star, high 5-star, they don't necessarily really care when you get there. It's like at Alabama when Julio Jones came into Alabama. He talked that Saban put him as a 6th-string wide receiver to start off. They don't really. They know your pedigree. They know what you did at other schools, and they know some of the tape you put out there. But also, like it's a new year. It's a different day, different practice. What you have to earn it each and every day. What you did in the past is the past. You know, that's kind of the case. That's not even just the case for football. That's the case in the workplace. And that's a case for, like, say you're interviewing for a job, like, and you graduated from 4-point from Harvard. Yeah, the job cares about that, but once you start the job, it's kind of like, okay, how can you perform for our business? How do you perform as a doctor? How do you know what I mean? So to me, some of these transfers, they're eager to really show what they can do, because at programs like Alabama, LSU, I think the first, and not just, and also it kind of goes back to first impression is big. So some of these transfers, especially if you're a guy who transfers in, is buried on the depth chart, if you don't make a good first impression within the first few practices in the first week, you might get buried a little bit, and you might have a hard time coming back from that. So a guy like, I keep referencing Andre Sam, but he is a guy who maybe, with his skill set, might not make may not stand out a ton in practice. I think he's a guy that seems like a guy that just has a feel for getting out there in the game. But a lot of times how you practice is how you play in the game. So Sam, a guy who I'm sure is desperate to make an early impact and a good impression on the coaching staff. And it appears like, Zay Alexander, I saw, it looked like he was going with the ones in spring practice. Don't quote me on this, but it looked like he was competing with the ones. So Zay Alexander, I'm sure in the spring, has already made that good first impression with them. But I keep going back to Andre Sam, because Sam, I don't think, was enrolled in the spring, and now he's a guy that wants to make his mark. But yeah, Denver Harris, being involved in the scuffle, and I don't want to pinpoint that as the main reason for the scuffle, but it's like Kyron Lacy too. And Kyron Lacy, I know, is not a transfer, but he's a guy who there's a lot of expectations for him to break out. He hears this stuff too. Kyron Lacy, I shouldn't speak for what he would say in an interview, but I'm sure he would say that he's a guy that would say something along the lines of Mason Taylor, day by day, getting better each day, kind of a lot of the stuff that, coaches want players to hear and stay humble. But Kyron Lacy, he's a guy that he knows the buzz, he knows the expectations, he also, I'm sure, knows what he's capable of. So I'm sure that he wants to really make an impression and knows how competitive the wide receiver room is. And with he's got Hilton, Kyle Parker, Preen, Jaylen Brown, some of these talented freshmen hungry to play. So he understands how he needs to perform, how he needs to play to really get on the field and make a big time impact. So he I'm sure. Maybe that was part of it. Who knows? There's a lot of different reasons for a scuffle. I guess I'm not going to speculate too much, but yeah, I think a lot of that has contributed to the competitiveness right now, and just guys eager and intense to make good first impressions and make impressions each day in camp, especially as we get closer and closer to the season starting. But yeah, I think, exciting stuff. Hopefully we get another Brian Kelly press conference. I'm not sure. If you guys want to comment below when Brian Kelly is scheduled to have another press conference, I don't know how they do. I still don't know how they do like the press conference schedules. I'm sure we're going to get some more player interviews. I'd love to hear some of the guys I'd like to hear from. Omar Spates. Omar Spates, I think, is an interesting guy to hear from. It sounds like he more of a quiet guy, kind of leads by example. But yeah, I would be interested to hear what he has to say about some things, or kind of about the way practice is going, how he feels. He looks confident, calm, going through drills. Harold Perkins too. Harold Perkins, you haven't really see. I don't think he was available to the media at all last year. Maybe after a game or two. But yeah, I'd like to hear how Harold, maybe his side of the scuffle, and hear how things are going in year 2 for Harold Perkins in a season where there's big expectations for his play, and there's expectations for him to really learn a position and excel in that role. So Harold Perkins, a guy I'd certainly would love to have interviewed. But yeah, kind of run out of time, guys. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Bayou Bengals. Make sure to stay tuned for more episodes and clips from the show. Till next time, peace.